Hey guys, it's Stockpad. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be covering off AquaBounty, ticker symbol AQB. So make sure you stick around till the end, like usual. Hopefully you'll like what I've got for you today. Got some pretty interesting news. So we're going to be covering off the latest news for AQB. A quick chart analysis to see how the stock has performed over the last couple of days. And we're going to be discussing the future of AQB, what I think may be happening with AQB in the next couple of weeks and months to come. As always, guys, before we get started, the aim is to grow the channel as big as I possibly can. That would be great. Appreciate all the subscriptions so far and all the likes on the videos. It's super appreciative. If you can please hit the subscribe button and hit the like button. I'm trying to get this up to at least 100 subscribes. Before the end of January if I can. If I can get that, I'd be super appreciative and it would be super cool. So thanks for your support so far and keep hitting that like button. Okay, so just to go on to the latest news for AQB, some of you may or may not be aware, but I'll talk about it anyways. So there has been, before we even get started, if you're new to the channel and you don't know what AQB is or AquaBounty, let me tell you a little bit about the company. AquaBounty develops and markets products to enhance the productivity in land-based aquaculture. It offers AquaAdvantage Salmon, which is their bioengineered salmon, Atlantic salmon for human consumption. Now, as of the 20th of January, AquaBounty's actually filed for an S-3 form, which is, as you know, public offering of shares. This is slightly different to the previous ones they've done. Not a huge surprise, to be honest, if we all think about what's been going on with the pandemic and the effects they may have on the food industry and the food channel in general. You can kind of guess that it may be causing some problems for AquaBounty and other food providers in the food industry. So the offering is for 200 million in value, split over a 2-year period. This won't be the same as I mentioned before as their previous filings, and it will be spread out over a period of 2 years. In the S3 form, AQB have stated that they are not. So this is just like a bit of background around the S3 form. If you have a read through it, it is on the SEC site. Feel free to have a read. It doesn't take that long. It's probably good that you guys do your due diligence and have a look at it yourselves. But just to give you kind of a quick update, in the S3 form, AQB state that they have not been profitable, and the reason for the offering is due to part of it is because of COVID-19 and the hindering that it's had on the operation, which is obviously causing them some problems. Like I said, I think that's something that we probably all can appreciate would be a realistic problem for a company that provides seafood or food in general. They state they've incurred significant losses since inception and expect to continue to incur these significant losses over time until things kind of improve. So again, it's not a huge surprise. COVID will do that to a business. They're still waiting. I mean, it was mentioned in a previous video that we're still waiting on the first quarter harvest. And that is still the case. They haven't released any information on their first quarter harvest. I suspect it's going to be a good harvest, but I suspect there may be a few problems around that, and we'll discuss that in a couple of minutes. AQB mentioned that they have experienced certain delays last year with capital projects, so we know that they raised a bunch of capital last year, and it seems that they have had some issues rolling those projects out because of COVID-19, with delays in getting things actually done. It does cause some massive problems with actually trying to get stuff done. You can plan that as much as you like, but in the end there's always going to be a problem with COVID-19 that you don't plan for. AQB have mentioned that they have experienced certain delays last year with the capital projects like the Indiana farm. This was delayed, and I imagine that they'll have more delays coming up with capital projects relating to the scaling of their global operation, because they do have plans to, build new facilities and what have you. So we can suspect that may be a problem there with COVID being an issue. So yes, there is that. That is a problem. There, of course, according to the S3 filing, they mentioned that they are using all available measures to mitigate any potential infection, and they've got the infection control policies in place, which is good. You'd expect that to try and mitigate any future risk to their employees and to the operation itself. Now, CV is a nightmare. No matter how much planning you do, as I said before, there's always going to be a case where you're going to get someone who gets infected. It is devastating on a business if you lose 2 or 3 employees who are key workers. Key workers to the operation, and many things can go wrong. But it does appear that they are doing everything they can to keep it business as usual. But by the sounds of what's written in the S3 filing, it does appear that they may have had some issues with COVID themselves. Like, we're in the middle of a pandemic, what can you do? Now, there is the current demand for the product, as of the S3 filing, states that it has dropped off due to restaurants closing and other food outlets closing down. Again, this is something that we would assume would be the case with COVID-19. It will have an effect on the operation. They are producing food that needs to be kept in tanks, and once the harvests are done, this food then gets obviously stored somehow, but there is obviously a storing limit on how much you can store and for how long you can store it, so that is going to be a problem as well. Obviously then producers create some problems with how long the food's stored for. It's no longer fresh, so there are problems around that. So the demand for the product has dropped off. They state that there will continue to be a problem until the vaccines are fully rolled out across the US. We can assume that in the next coming year, maybe 12 months, a little bit longer, the vaccines will start to have an effect on the numbers of COVID. But again, I'm not a medical or a scientist professional, so I can't really comment on that, but just making assumptions now. So we can, I guess, revisit this in a couple of months and see where they're at. It appears they may have a problem, as I said before, with having too much stock on hand and risking loss through wastage. According to AQB, they're looking at potentially donating some of the stock, which is great, and it shows that these guys are ethically minded. They're being responsible with the food, with the amount of stock they've got on hand. If they're going to throw it in the bin, they may as well just donate it out to people who actually need the food. So they're looking at doing that now, which is great. Let's just look at the stock chart very quickly to see where this thing's at. We can see on the stock chart, let me just bring this up. Okay, so just looking at the charts, it's actually looking really good, to be honest. We're looking like we broke and closed above the previous resistance of 1150, which was kind of bouncing around that line for a little while since the 14th of January. It touched that and came back down again, and again on the 22nd of January it touched it, and again it's closed above that on the 22nd. So it's actually closed at 12:02, so 12:07, which is great. Big trades around that week. Some huge volume has been traded. My concern is that now, with the filing of the S3, the more people that find out about it are going to panic and maybe panic sell. I don't think people should panic sell. I don't see this as being a negative. The RSI indicator on here shows 64.6, which isn't actually too bad. It's just above average. It's nothing like, when ARK Invest came into the picture, the RSI went up to 90.8, which is super high. We're kind of bouncing around the 66 to 64-ish, kind of in the mid-60s. RSI showing that it's not overly bought. It is a little on the overly bought side, more so than the oversold side, but that's not a bad thing. It is still quite healthy in terms of what the chart is telling us. So I'm still quite bullish on it at this point, and even now it's still at $12. If it bounces off that on Monday morning and comes back down, that's not a bad thing. I assume it may actually bounce off that now and maybe close below 12 on the Monday and Tuesday, and then we're going to go for a second attempt at the 12 resistance and push above it again, but we'll see. We don't want it to go parabolic either, because that's not realistic and it's just going to come crashing down at some point. It's not healthy for the stock, so we kind of want to make sure that it doesn't go parabolic, which I don't think it will, but either way it looks good. Okay, so just to close off on this, I wanted to keep this video short and sweet. In terms of what I see for the future of AQB, it's still positive as far as I'm concerned, guys. It's not looking like, you know, this is tragic or anything like that. The offering is, as I said, going to be done over a 2-year period. They're doing it in a slightly different format as to what they did last time. They're not doing one bulk offering, so they're going to do it in chunks, which is good. And just because they're planning to release some new offerings over the course of the years doesn't cause a huge concern. They just want to make sure that they can still keep the business running and keep it business as usual. They've got people that they need to, you know, bring in for this expansion and just, I guess, for day-to-day running of the business. It's probably good that they have a backup plan, and this is, I guess, their backup plan. My only tiny bit of concern is that they are still hemorrhaging money and have been hemorrhaging money since the last 3 years. And they're losing quite a lot of money, but I mean, this is understandable at this point in time because they have invested quite heavily into the Indiana facility. They have invested quite heavily into the you know, the production facility itself, and you know, it is a huge capital to raise to get these things running. So they've put all this money into it, and now COVID comes around, bang, in your face. Now all of a sudden you've got a huge amount of stock on your hands that you can't do anything with. You've got a facility that's probably not running 100% capacity. They probably had to slow the capacity down, no doubt, and maybe even lay off some workers, put them on furlough or what have you. So there is some concern there that they are still hemorrhaging money, and that is not going to go away anytime soon, not until at least vaccines are rolled out. I mean, they're doing it. They're not doing it because it's their fault. They can't help these things. But that's my only concern at this point. Is you know, when are we going to start to see this company start to turn over a profit? And at the moment, they're not really turning over a profit. But yeah, let's see what happens. I would assume, I guess, in worst case scenario, that AQB would have some access to government funds, considering that these guys are producing food, and it's not just food, but it's also a sustainable source of protein. So they are slightly different, and I would probably assume, if push comes to shove, that the government would jump in and give these guys a bit of a hand. So not overly concerned there if it does become a worst case scenario. I don't think it will get to that point, but yeah, it could, but I don't think that's the case. Additionally, as per my last couple of videos, I mentioned that there would be some scope down the line for AQB to seek some regulatory approval from in other countries for the AquaAdvantage Salmon. And this is actually mentioned, this is a good thing, it's actually mentioned in the S-3 filing. They are seeking approval in Argentina, Brazil, China and Israel. So we've got 4 countries, 4 new markets potentially coming up for the aqua salmon, AquaAdvantage salmon that they produced, which would be amazing if they can get this stuff approved in those 4 countries. It would be absolutely amazing. I mean, think of the size of the market in China, for example, or Brazil, really. Either one of those have a huge, I would imagine, have a huge market for this. So this is really good news. And again, another great catalyst for us to look out for in the future, and just makes it even a more bullish case. So it's great for AquaBounty if they can get that off the ground, and you can assume once the pandemic is over and they've got their regulatory approvals, this is going to really jump. It leaps and bounds even more. So all good news. And that's pretty much it, really, guys. I just wanted to keep this one really short and sweet before people panic and go off thinking that they're raising money because they're going down the toilet, so to speak. They're not. It is purely over a 2-year project, 2-year period. to raise capital and to keep the business afloat. I'm assuming they're thinking that they may need this to survive through the pandemic, and to also fund the projects that they've got coming up in the next 2 years. So it's all good. It's responsible for them to do this, and either one of us running a business would probably do the same. So good work, AquaBounty, and that's it really, guys. That's all I had for you. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, smash that like button, or gently hit that like button, I don't mind. Hope you've liked the video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.